What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be my in-depth analysis and review of the Mythic Hero banner featuring Elimine. I'll be rating each unit based on their performance and their fodder, and I'll of course take a comprehensive look at Elimine and how she does in Either offense as an Astro Mythic and what kind of meta change she can influence. I'll also go over the build options that you can do on Elimine. So Elimine is a staff flyer, which is definitely a really unique class type. It provides you with good mobility and can also provide you with the supportive skills that she has got. And she also has the mythic effect, which can boost up the speed of your Astra blessed units. And she's also a 6-slot unit like Ashera, Thor, and Regan. Now let us begin with her weapon and really analyze this, because this weapon is what makes Elimine into such a strong and oppressive unit in Either offense. So this weapon has got Dazzling Staff built into it, and at start of turn she can provide +6 defense and resistance buff to allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn. So this allows her to have a buff bot type of role where she just has to run attack tactic, and then she can pretty much buff up all of the relevant stats of most of the tanks. And now let's move on to the most interesting part, which allows her to inflict the false start status on the foes in the cardinal direction if they have got less resistance than Elimine. So false start is basically this kind of new status effect which prevents the target to activate the skills that trigger at start of a turn. So any kind of skill that has got the phrase at start of a turn, those skills are not going to be able to be triggered. And I'll give you an idea of how massive the pool of those skills are, just how many skills that you can shut down. I know you read the title of the video, but I'll really show you visually how impressively strong her shutdown potential is when it comes to the skills. So this kind of false start status is not going to be activating on the duo skills or harmonized skills, and it can definitely be neutralized by odd or even recovery, but the catch is that the healers who have odd or even recovery need to have more resistance than Elimine and not be affected by the false start, so that they can actually trigger those recovery skills. And this of course does not stop any beast unit from their transformation. Of course you cannot really do that. So those are some of the things which you have to keep in mind about this new status, but other than that, false start status is extremely strong and it is going to be extremely good for Either offense, especially for players who really dislike facing certain units. Again, I'll show you visually to show how oppressive she can be. Now, this kind of weapon also is going to be working in summoner duels, but it's not really all that good. So I wouldn't really recommend, using Elimine in summoner duels. She's mainly tailored towards Either offense, and that's her competitive edge. And then she's got Nudge Plus, which is basically a healing shove, attack res push 4, and attack speed fart trace. Fart trace skill on a healer is definitely really nice so that you can position appropriately after you use Nudge. And then finally, she's got Holy Ground as her preferred slotsy skill. This skill can provide 30% flat damage reduction on allies within 2 spaces of Elimine, and it can also provide them with +4 defense and resistance during the combat. So it is just doubling down as a drive defense and drive resistance along with providing damage reduction, and that's why I think she's better Flame, because Flame has the damage reduction in her weapon. Here Elimine has that in her slotsy and also provides you extra defense and resistance, and can also support you with her staff, the Staff of the Saint. Now just as a quick disclaimer, the damage reduction always stacks multiplicatively. If you run Flame and Elimine both, then you're pretty much going to be getting 51% damage reduction. So it does not stack additively, only multiplicatively. So Elimine is a superb support unit, and now let's move on to the skills and the units that she can actually disable with the false start effect from her weapon. And her influence is going to be really insane on Either offense. This is similar to the stuff when Milla came out with Isolation. Actually, it's even better and more major than Milla in my opinion, because Milla, it can only affect the rally traps units and the assist units, but here, Elimine can just affect so many units, and the first victim of Elimine's false start is going to be none other than Brattle Catria. So Brattle Catria is a really popular defense archetype. If you've seen my Either defense videos, that's the team that I run, and if Brattle Catria is affected by false start, then she's not going to be giving triangle attack to anyone, because again, any skill, weapon or special that has got the phrase at start of a turn, that skill is not working with false start inflicted on them. So Brattle Catria is the major victim of this kind of effect of Elimine. And then we have got Legendary Seaguard. He's not getting the extra movement if he's affected. Brutal Shell is not getting pre-charge, Draco Falchion is not giving the extra movement, Flower Oddclair is not giving her the Otter's buff or the extra movement, Mistletoe is not going to be having the pre-charge special, Yuri does not get the extra movement, and so on and so on. There is also Kia Staff here of Sarah, but Sarah can actually use Kia Staff if she can just stack up enough resistance to prevent the false start of Elimine, because keep in mind that Elimine has got a resistance check, so if you can have more visible resistance than her, then you can surely avoid that. There's also specials like Shining Emblem and a lot of the free-to-play mages like Aversa, Iago, who all have these gimmick effects, and Aversa is also due for a weapon refine. So these are just the weapons and specials that are notable for Aetherite's defense usage that Elimine can completely disable, and it's really hard to avoid that. And now let's move on to the skills that she can disable. It's not even gonna be funny. So she can disable stuff like Hardy Fighter. Yeah, Hardy Fighter that is run on Brave Hector and Ascended Fjorm many times. Time Pulse, so if you're pre-charging your specials, forget about that. Shield Pulse, and Ground Orders. Ground Orders is such a major thing that many Aetherite's defense teams use with Mirabilis and their Dancers, so that is disabled. A lot of the buffing skills like Tactics, Menaces, Gaps, stuff like Armor March, Armored Stride. The recovery skills can also be shut down if the healer does not have enough resistance to prevent the false start infliction. And then we also have the preferred skills, which also just get shut down. Even a latest unit like Glittering Female Pilot also gets her Slotsy skill completely shut down by Elimine, and there are just so many other skills. Even Upheaval of Duma, who is an Aetherite's defense mythic, does get shut down, so it's pretty insane. You can see so many skills and so many units here. I've not even mentioned like every single unit and every single skill here, but still you can see how massive the reach of Elimine is with this kind of shutdown by using False Start. So Elimine in the cardinal direction of the skill users or these units is going to be able to inflict them with False Start and just shut down their weapons, skills, or specials, and that can be a lot. That can be definitely a lot, and that definitely gives you a lot of flexibility when you use Elimine. But even with the craziness that her weapon brings, do not forget that she can also provide damage reduction with her Slotsy skill. So in my opinion, Elimine is easily one of the best Astro Mythics because of the things that she brings and the types of teams that she can shut down. Like you can shut down Legendary Secret teams here, you can shut down Catria Balls here that overly rely on her, just shut down the triangle attack. You can shut down return traps if people are still running those with Reist of Winter Bernadetta. If you're running pre-charge specials with Ophelia, Legend Lilina, Pent, or like Oter, then it is getting shut down. You're also shutting down any kind of Infantry Pulse usage if you're trying to make an Infantry Pulse team and have pre-charge specials. If your opponent has got some kind of Hardy Fighter armor unit, then yeah, it is also getting countered right there. Time Pulse is also really commonly used, so there are just so many skills that she can shut down if you smartly use her, and the best use of her is going to be with save balls. You want to use units with near save, far save, or just tanks in general, so that's what Elimine just completely supports with the damage reduction, as well as providing them with the extra stats of a mythic unit, which Flame does not provide. Elimine here can provide you with extra HP and extra speed, which can definitely be pretty helpful. Now for many tanks, speed might not be the most useful thing, but speed can still be a really useful stat for a far save tank or a near save tank, because there are definitely a lot of speedy opponents. Like for near save tanks, the extra speed might help you against Brave Erica or like Brave Alm. That really depends on his speed. So while the speed buff is not the best for a lot of the tanks, it's still useful, and it's just the extra stats that she can provide. So in the Astro season, I feel like Flame is pretty much out. Flame is mostly going to be seen in the Light season. In the Astro season, Elimine just does so much more than Flame, and also provides you with the false start effect, so it becomes easier for you to tank a lot of the teams. Now the reason why Catria Ball is such a main concern is because Catria Ball's main selling point is the fact that far save units, near save units are really popular. So Brattle Catria comes in with her triangle attack, making any kind of unit into a really offensive nuke with the brave hits, and that's what really helps you break those super stacked up tanks with safe skills. But if you run Elimine, then you can shut down the triangle attack of Brattle Catria and then pretty much have an easier time tanking. Same goes for a lot of other stuff present here. It's kind of self-explanatory at this point, because how you can, disable a lot of these stuff here to make it easier for your tanks to pretty much just tank so many of the threats which run these kinds of common skills, or are the threats which I mentioned before. So when it comes to rating her, I think that she's easily 10 out of 10. and she does provide you with the Fortrace and the Attack Res Push Fodder. Fortrace is not the best type of trace because it doesn't really have the canto remaining like the Neo Trace skill, and it is obviously not a flat canto. So it can be a bit hard to use at times, but still it's a pretty nice skill to have, and you could inherit the attack resistance push at the same time. I wish this was attack speed push for, because a unit that generally wants to have attack speed Fortrace wants to have an offensive version of a slot A skill. So not the best option that comes with the Fortrace, but still it's nice option, and Nudge Plus could be an option for healers. And as for the builds that you want to run on Elimine, I feel like you should definitely try to replace attack res push with Fortress Defense Res and run Phantom Resistance. She has a res check for the false start effect, and that is the most optimal way of using her. Elimine is pretty much a support unit, so you could just have Sabotage Attack as well on her slot B, and that can provide more extra support to your tanks. You could of course run Wrathful Staff, but most of the time she's going to be used as a support unit. But if you don't want to use her as a support, then Attack Speed Unity or Attack Speed Cat is a way of making her a bit more offensive. She can already buff up the defense and resistance with her weapon, so Attack Tactic is actually a pretty fantastic option here. So Elimine is easily one of the most meta-influential Aetherytes units I think that we have received in many months. And I feel like she's pretty much the biggest thing after Safe Defense, because it's just insane how many things that you can shut down and how much easier it makes for you to tank with your far save units and your save units, or just tanks in general. And there's definitely a counterplay to her, and that counterplay is stacking up resistance by using Fortress Defense Res and Phantom Resistance Secret Seal. So here I have an example of Brattle Catria that can stack up Fortress Defense Res and Phantom Resistance to reach effectively 54 resistance. So against Elimines that are not going to be fully optimizing themselves with a Fortress Defense slot A skill, this can definitely help you still trigger the triangle attack and catch them off guard. My thought process is to basically catch the opponents who do not optimize their Elimine, similar to how many players still do not optimize their Mila and still run Bracing Stance on her slot A. So that's why this kind of thing can definitely catch them. And the use of Mirabilis and resistance boosting Anima Mythics is definitely going to be helping you, because you can increase the visible resistance of your units here. I've mentioned Attack Res Oath and the visible buffs here to her resistance just as a way of protecting yourself against false start after turn 1. If you can stall turn 1, then you can definitely make use of the visible buffs and definitely help that to prevent the false start. And if they release any kind of Anima Mythics that can open up the 7th slot, who also boost up your resistance, then I think that would definitely be the ideal scenario. And I think this is definitely going to be helping, similar to how Note was introduced as a defense Dark Mythic who can boost up the defense of your units, and that can definitely help you be an anti-Mila type of unit with your dancers especially. And a lot of the units which have the effects that can be shut down by Elimine should be run in different lanes, so that Elimine player has to pretty much choose between which effect they want to suppress, and they cannot really suppress all of the effects at the same time, so make it a bit hard for them. This is the similar concept of running multiple dancers when Mila came into the game. Mila cannot isolate both of the dancers at the same time, so you just have them in different lanes and make them choose. If they make the wrong choice, then it could prove to be fatal for them and their tanking strategy. Sarah can also be used to cleanse the false start effect, but the catch is that you will need to resistance stack up your Sarah to make sure that she doesn't get hit by a false start, and also HP match your units for the Kia staff. And units who are just going to be having better matchup against save balls or tanks are going to be helpful here, because that is pretty much the way of making the Aetherytes defense nowadays with Elimine in the picture, because Brattle Catria is not going to be as effective if a lot of people get Elimine, and keep in mind that Fey Pass users can just spark her, so even just one-off copy of Elimine is going to be enough for facing many of the matchups here. And previously people could use Fire Sweep effects, like I use Fire Sweep Wrath to take care of a lot of the far save armor units, but now with Ascended Fjorm, even the Fire Sweep units at range are not going to be that useful. There's also the fact that Safe Defense is a thing, so Dancer Trap teams are a lot more weakened now, and you also have to prepare for the incredibly offensive units that can player phase your team. Like Yuri can go in, kill one of your units, and get back to safety of Safe Defense. So that's why having a far save armor unit can definitely help you, mitigate that. But there are just a lot of factors now in making the Aetherytes defense team for the Anima season. And Elimine just makes it even harder now, just shutting down so many effects and so many archetypes here. So it is definitely going to be a challenge now. I definitely think that they're going to be releasing some kind of solution to this problem as the next Anima Mythic. So I guess we just have to look forward to that and just make use of a lot of units with these effects to make the Elimine choose one of the lanes, and then just also use units who are really strong themselves, like Brave Erika or Brave Alm, who do have the power to break through a lot of the near save armor units or just save units in general. So those kinds of units are going to be helpful. Another example here is going to be this kind of Mirabilis with Ground Orders. So if you want to have the orders buff, then Ground Orders is really popular. But here, as you can see, by making your units anti-Elimine, you're losing out on quite a lot. Like this, Catria loses out on so much attack and speed by not running attack speed push for in slot A, and she's also losing out on a Sacred Seal by running Phantom Resistance. So the trade-off is definitely there if you're trying to make your team anti-Elimine. Like this, Mirabilis can be, tagged for facing Elimine, but then she cannot really run aerobatics, which is kind of annoying. So overall, Elimine is a top tier Astro Mythic unit, easily in the ranks of Plumeria and Dragon in my opinion, and that just goes to show you how powerful and influential she can be with her support. So if you run save tanks or you have tanking strategy in Aether's offense in the Astra season, then she can prove to be a really good support unit who can shut down many of the problematic matchups that might be troublesome for your save tanks, and she just provides fantastic support with her damage reduction and also the false start effect. And right now on this banner, she is color sharing with Ashera, who's also really good for save tanking with her Null Panic effect. So this provides you a good opportunity to really invest into these units if you are about that save tanking life, and if that's the strategy that you use a lot. Even just a one-off copy of Elimine is going to be helping you with your save ball team or your tanking team, and it can definitely help you in many matchups. Now, I would still, suggest that you watch out for the FEH channel that is going to be coming up on 2nd February, because we might get a Hero Fest, so it's always good to scout out. And this time of the month and this time of the game is usually going to be filled with a lot of high value banners with Hero Fest, a Hero Rises event, all kinds of stuff. So just be careful about that, even though Elimine is a really good unit and this is a really good color sharing. Me personally, I'm not really going to be pulling for her because I don't really use save tanks that much, and I mainly use Gale Force strategy. I really like to shut down things like Legendary Secret, Catria Ball teams with player phase Gale Force teams before they have any chance to reach my own team. So I don't really use save ball that much, and whenever I do, it's usually against a team that I know they can easily win against. So right now from my free-to-play account, Elimine is not really the unit that I'm going to be spending orbs on, but she's definitely a really solid unit, and I wouldn't mind, getting a one-off copy if I get lucky with my free summon. I'm not gonna lie, she's definitely really solid. And now let's move on to the other units on this banner, which are also really important. So like I said, the color sharing is really nice this time around with 2 Astra units. So if you have Elimine and Ashera as your merge core, then you can definitely try and get merges on them. Both of these units really complement each other well and the tanking strategy, because Null Panic means that you can easily buff up your units, use stuff like Bonus Doubler, and be really resilient in the face of panic effects and panic manners, which is definitely really solid. Ashera also provides you with the visible buffs similar to the visible buffs that Elimine can provide you with, so you can just run some other supportive Sacred Seals which can definitely help you in terms of increasing the stats of your save tanks, which is always really helpful. You can also use Ashera as a cleanup unit because her firepower is actually not that bad with Order's Sentence, and you can easily run her with Wind Sweep or just Loud Speed Resistance to make sure that she can hit really hard and just finish off some of the weakened opponents. Ashera's fodder has improved a bit because we have got Reeve now, who can provide you with attack res ideal, so you could actually inherit the tier 4 version of the ideal skill as well as the lull speed resistance at the same time from Ashera. But unfortunately, the attack res ideal skill is not going to be used that much compared to attack speed ideal in my opinion, and usually if you're trying to run a lull speed resistance, then it is always going to be going on to some kind of unit who wants to have speed, so attack speed ideal is going to be a bit better in that case. Still, her fodder is pretty decent, and she can also be a really good unit in Aether's offense. Legendary Claude finishes the color sharing in colorless, and he's a really solid Earth Legendary unit, easily the best Earth Legendary unit because of Fail Not and Fallen Star. Now, unfortunately, his Fallen Star doesn't really quite work in Summoner duels in the enemy phase, so it's not going to be helping you too much in the enemy phase there, but still, he is a really strong unit who can provide you with the gravity effect of the Fallen Star as well as get a lot of damage reduction. So he's still really versatile in many of the game modes. He can also function in Aether offense as a hit and run unit with safety defense and the gravity effect, and the damage reduction with null follow-up built into his weapon can make him annoyingly bulky with his extremely high speed, and he can of course have access to Deadeye, which can help him pierce through the damage reduction skills. And as for fodder, he can provide you with attack speed catch 4 or speed defense rain at the same time. Unfortunately, we do not have any kind of permanent unit who can provide you with a cat skill at tier 3, so it's going to be a bit hard for you to inherit the cat skill and the rain skill at the same time unless you summoned for a 4-star Near Liar. Ascended Fjorm is pretty much one of the premier far safe tanks. The reason being is that she's got null counter disrupt in her weapon. It also has distant counter built into it and also provides her with healing, so it just has a lot of effects, and Hardy Fighter can pretty much provide her, and Hardy Fighter pretty much has the partial null follow up which can help her stop the auto follow up attacks. So this can make her matchup against someone like Dual Lift deceptively good because not only he has got an auto double, but he also has the weapon strangle advantage. So Ice Mirror can definitely help you mitigate that and just reflect back the damage that you absorb. Ascended Fjorm is a really versatile unit who can be used in any game mode, has got consistent damage reduction with Ice Mirror, which cannot really be pierced through the damage reduction skills like Deadeye and stuff like that, which definitely makes her a solid tank. And she can also provide you with extremely good fodder in the far safe skill as well as Hardy Fighter. I feel like Hardy Fighter is definitely the better skill to inherit, and it's the rare skill because she's the only unit with this skill, and Hardy Fighter can make armor units into really obnoxious tanks. For example, Brave Hector becomes a really strong tank with Hardy Fighter Aegis, and it's really hard to break through him, especially if you run some kind of Deflect Sacred Seal like Deflect Magic. Eitri is, in my opinion, the best fire legendary unit, and she's also extremely good even outside of being a legendary unit because she's got the fixed Canto as a flying unit, and she's also a ranged flying unit, so she can be a really annoying unit to face in summoner duels and super useful to use yourself. But just keep in mind that because of her low speed and how she functions, null follow-up and some far safe armor units can be a bit annoying to her, but Eitri is just really solid with that Canto and the damage reduction that she gets, which can definitely make her deceptively bulky. And she can even survive some effective hits from bow units because of the damage reduction and then return the damage back if she auto doubles. She has got fantastic flying mobility for stuff like arena and summoner duels, and in Aether offense, she can function as a hit and run unit because of the fixed Canto and safety defense. So there are plenty of uses of Eitri, and she can definitely be a really strong unit. Her fodder is decent with attack res rain and attack res solo. AETHER is the final unit for the green pool, and he can definitely provide you value as a 7-slot Anima Mythic unit with his Brutal Shell being a pre-chargeable Luna. And he also has the Canto effect from his preferred weapon, which oftentimes can hurt you in Aether's defense because you don't actually want to have the Canto skill with the AI. But still, the Canto is really useful when you use him in summoner duels, and he can definitely be pretty bulky with his mixed bulk and hit really hard. I've definitely had success with something like Slaying Hammer on him, which can definitely hit really hard on Gustavs and the armor units who are not named Brave Hector. So that's one of the ways of using AETHER. He's not exactly going to be some kind of broken unit, and at the same time he can definitely carry some value. As for fodder, he provides you with Green Dual Cavalry 4, which is super good for many of the premium cavaliers like Guntra for example, or of course Desert Azura. And even for free-to-play units like Walhart or Cecilia, you can get some decent value out of the skill to improve your arena experience. And he also has Flow Refresh and Attack Defense Menace, which you could inherit at the same time. So he definitely has some nice fodder and also a rare dual skill. Volke is pretty much the best user of lethality that he introduces into the game, and that is because of his weapon that can provide him with Null Guard as well as having the special acceleration. So even though Volke does not really have the utility of Canto or Foul Play of Yuri, Volke is still extremely powerful in his own regard because of his high damage output and the fact that he can fire off lethality quite consistently. And he also provides this as a fodder, so you could inherit lethality and sturdy impact at the same time, or you could get lethality and time pulse at the same time, which is going to be really useful for many dagger units who can run quick dagger and run lethality builds. So he definitely has got some top tier fodder. We also have Constance on this banner, who does have the partial null follow-up in her weapon, so she can definitely abuse the wind sweep effect with her slot B. And then she's got a really interesting odd and even turn mechanic. So on the odd turns, she can basically neutralize any kind of visible buffs to opponents' speed and resistance, and then on the even turns, she can neutralize any kind of penalties on herself for her attack and speed. So she can pretty much function as a flying red nuke with this kind of weapon. Of course, there's also duo pilot, but still Constance is quite solid, and her fodder is also really solid with attack speed, fort trace, and attack speed push 4, which you could inherit at the same time. And then we move on to a bit of a dud on this banner for the red pool, and that is going to be Legendary Seliph, unfortunately. So Legendary Seliph just faces incredible competition when it comes to a Sword Cavalier. He's mainly going to be functioning in the enemy phase, but his father, Legendary Sigurd, functions in both phases. And when it comes to a Sword Cavalier, there's just so much competition with stuff like Regin, Legendary Erika, and so many of the other units who can function in either player phase or function really well in mixed phase, and just have a lot better niche than Seliph. So he can be tanky, but unfortunately being a Cavalier tank is not really the best role. Unfortunately, doesn't have a preferred weapon or a skill that can take him to the next level. He does have good fodder with distant counter and joint tone defense, which you could inherit at the same time, and both of these are 300 SP skilled, so it's really good for arena scoring. Hapi is definitely the winner of the blue pool, as she possesses incredible amounts of one-shot potential with her demonic tome that also has beast effectiveness, and she just has really good base attack. Her fodder provides you with attack res catch 4 or attack res fort trace. You could only inherit one of these skills at a time now, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get some kind of real unit who does have tier 3 version of the cat skill. So after you get that kind of unit, you could inherit both of her passive skills, which is definitely gonna be improving her fodder potential. Peony is a really solid light mythic unit, still the best light mythic in my opinion, being a dancer, providing the buffs with Gentle Dream. The Orders buff is just really good and quite timeless, and she can be used in different game modes as well because that buff is just so useful. And overall, she is a solid merge project for your light mythic core because Peony is going to be present in pretty much most of the light teams, so having merges on your mythics can definitely help you with the rankings. And if you're trying to get the merges on Peony, then this could be a decent color share if you are interested in Julia and also Hapi. And finally, we have got Legendary Julia, who is a pretty old pair-up Earth Legendary unit. She doesn't really score all that high, but still, she can pack a punch with Virtuous Naga, and that's pretty much her selling point with her high nuking potential, as well as having the Dragon effectiveness. Light and Dark can certainly help you in Arena with its Dull All effect, and also the Null adaptive, but unfortunately Julia lacks the auto follow-up skill that can help her double against many of the opponents, because even though she's got high nuking potential, unfortunately units nowadays are really bulky or they have some kind of damage reduction skill, so they can survive Julia. So having some kind of auto double would be really good, but at max investment she can definitely run a speedy build to kind of fix that. And as for fodder, she does provide you with Mirror Impact, which is a decent skill, but it's mainly a player phase skill that you either run on Aether defense or you run on units who need to abuse stuff like Iceberg or Glacies. Overall, this banner provides you with solid value on colorless and green because the color sharing is definitely really good, and the red color also has pretty good fodder with Constance and Volke, especially Volke providing you with the lethality. If you have Ashera and Elimine as your Astro Mythic core, then the Astro merges can certainly help you because the color sharing among the Mythic units can basically let you double down for the merges for the Astra season. And Elimine can definitely be a good spark option if you have Fate Pass, because even a one-off copy of her can definitely make your experience much better in Aether's offense. And unfortunately, this banner doesn't really have multiple legendary units color sharing on the banner. Now, before you summon on this banner, it's really important to remember that FEH channel is going to be happening on 2nd February. That is going to be the 5th anniversary of FEH. So yeah, half a decade has passed, and that is probably going to be having some kind of Hero Fest banner, I feel like. And Mythic remixes are also a possibility in February because we have seen some kind of reruns of Mythic units in February, so they might be planning something, as you'll see in the next image. And Valentine's banner is going to be there as well. The last year's Valentine banner was definitely pretty meta influential with the save skills and dual lift, so definitely something to watch out for. And then a Hero Rises event is going to be happening in February, and depending on which units can win, we'll probably have a banner in March. February is going to be having a Legendary Hero banner, and I feel like we're probably going to be getting some kind of blue Legendary unit. Notice probably on a Hero Fest if I had to guess, and we also have a lot of older Mythic units rerun, so there's a fair chance of a Mythic remix because Freed's remix is also going to be happening next month, so that's where these old Mythics will probably go. But the next month's Legend Hero banner is super good if you have Plumeria and Regin as your Astra Core Mythics, because you could try to get merges on them, and if you're interested in that, then you can look forward to it. So that is going to be my banner review. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are thinking of pulling on this banner because of Elimine or because of some other unit. And if you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using Super Thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more banner analysis videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Anima defense teams against Elimine. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.